Hi everyone, thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 455 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky informed that he held a meeting of the staff. He said that participants discussed the coalition to provide Ukraine with modern fighter jets. The first Ukrainian F-16 will be one of the strongest signals from the world that Russia will only lose because of its own aggression, becoming weaker and more isolated, stressed the president. Zelensky assured that Ukraine will prepare the necessary basis to ensure that the aviation transition is as quick and efficient as possible. Our warriors have already proved that they can master modern weapons with an efficiency that was not expected from us. I'm sure they will be just as successful with the aircraft, added the president. The president informed that the staff has also discussed responses to missile and drone threats. Volodymyr Zelensky said that now Russia is increasingly resorting to so-called combined strikes, different types of missiles and different types of drones. Ukrainian forces have shot down almost 900 of Shahed drones to date. In total, about 1,160 Shaheds have been used against Ukraine. The head of state called on Iran to stop aligning itself with the force of evil, Russia. He expressed gratitude to Ukraine's Air Force and all defenders of the sky for improving the country's defense faster than Russia can change its terror tactics. Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine Hanna Maliar informed that during the day a decrease in the intensity of fighting on the flanks in the suburbs of Bakhmut, Donetsk Oblast was registered, reports Fakty. She said that the enemy is constantly shelling, but Ukrainian soldiers are gradually advancing. The deputy minister said that the number of enemy assault operations had been reduced in Bakhmut. The enemy is replacing units. According to Maliar, Ukrainian defenders continue to control the area in the southwestern part of the city. The Orthodox Church of Ukraine, non-affiliated with Moscow, decided to completely switch to the Western calendar from September 1st, 2023, reports BBC News Ukraine. This means that Ukrainians will celebrate Christmas on 25th of December with the majority of the Christian world, not on 7th of January as Russia. Last year, believers had a choice between the two dates. Ambassador of Ukraine to Germany Alexei Makeyev announced the future delivery of 110 Leopard 1 tanks to Ukraine, reports Interfax Ukraine. He provided no further details except that they will be delivered soon. Earlier, Denmark and Germany agreed to transfer together 80 Leopard 1 tanks to Ukraine. The Danish defense minister told the local TV channel TV2 that the tanks should be ready for use in Ukraine by June 1st. The Japanese defense ministry handed over 100 cars and 30,000 ready-made food rations for the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine, reports Zerkalo Tyzhnya. Ukrainian ambassador to Japan Serhiy Korsonsky said that the first 2 cars are already on the way to Ukraine, the others will be sent after passing the inspection and the necessary training. The ambassador stressed that for the first time in the post-war history of Japan, the self-defense forces are transferring military equipment to a country at war. We would really appreciate if you could rate us in the apps where you're listening to this podcast: Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. This way more people would learn about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. Russian occupation authorities in Crimea announced the so-called nationalization of 57 properties that belong to Ukrainian businessmen and politicians, reports Ukrainska Pravda. In particular, they confiscated an apartment in Yalta that belonged to Ukraine's First Lady Olena Zelenska. Shopping mall in Yalta, which the Russian media claim is linked to ex-Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk, an agricultural company linked with Ukrainian politician Arsen Avakov, and the premises of the Medjlis of the Crimean Tatar people in Simferopol. The US is investigating whether the American equipment received by Ukraine was used during the recent operation in Russia's Belgorod Oblast, reports European Pravda. John Kirby, coordinator for strategic communications at the National Security Council at the White House, stressed that the United States disapproves of using American weapons for attacks on Russian territory and has informed Ukraine about this. On Monday, the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion informed that they crossed the border and were liberating settlements in Belgorod Oblast from the current Russian government. The media showed the footage of the Russian side that showed at least 2 heavily damaged US-made Humvees on the Russian side of the border. At the same time, the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion announced the end of the operation and informed the media that they lost 2 people killed and 12 wounded, reports Radio Liberty. They said that the aim of the operation was to check Russian defense in the region and not to hold ground there. The Highlights from Ukraine podcast is a commercial initiative of just 2 people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.